delighted to welcome back to the show Frida Fagerlund, Swedish football expert, journalist. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you for having me again. It's been a while.
It's been a while, and obviously that wonderful bookcase behind you. Love to see that again. So we've got obviously Swedish connections in two players, Bergvall and Kulusevski, which we will come to. But Thursday night, Europa League, last game of the Europa League, at home to Elfsborg. Just tell us a little bit about them. They finished 6th in the league last season. Season is finished domestically, but they played Nice last week and 1-0, which was a good win. They've still got a chance of going through. Just talk to us about them.
Yeah, they still have a chance, and that would obviously be highly impressive considering that, you know, the Swedish league is not that it's competitive for sure, but obviously it's not the best league in the world. And also it's off season in Sweden, you have to remember. So these players have been off for quite a long time. They haven't played that many games. They're obviously losing players as well during this time of the year with players moving on. So yeah, it's been really impressive to watch them, not the least against Nice, to get the win at home, where they have been playing really well, I should say. So, yeah, let's see what they can do at Tottenham Stadium.
Yeah, their away form in Europa League has not been great. They've lost all 3, conceded 10 goals. I'm fascinated. You mentioned that they've been off and they've lost players. They've not played domestically since, I think, December the 12th. Oh, that might have been another Europa game. They've certainly not played domestically for a long, long time. What happens with these teams that go off on winter breaks? And this is a close season. This is not a winter break like Germany, but when they go away and they don't play for so long, how do they keep the momentum going to get straight back into the Europa League game and beat teams like Nice?
Yes, obviously the main reason why they play calendar year in Sweden is obviously because of the weather. So it's really cold, the winters in Sweden. So the pitches might not be the best during winter. So that's why they sort of need those months to just make sure that the pitches are ready for April, which they rarely aren't, to be fair. And a lot of teams play on AstroTurf as well. So, yeah, so that is the main reason for it. So, yeah, I mean, it's like being off season in England, the fact that they usually go away for a while and then they come back and they have to start again. And that is always an issue for Swedish teams, I think, in terms of momentum. Sometimes it can obviously be a good thing because it means that they don't have anything else to focus on. But yeah, in this case, it seems like Elfsborg still have the momentum with them, at least if you were watching the game against Nice. So hopefully it can be a good thing for them.
We mentioned off your team, Trelleborg. I remember beating Blackburn. I think it was back in the 90s. How big a scout would it be for Elfsborg to get something from Tottenham on Thursday night?
It won't be bigger than that. I must
Nothing's
clarify.
bigger than that. Nothing is bigger.
Because that was unbelievable. I have to remember that Blackburn, like they won the league that year or the season before. Can't remember.
Yeah,
but
season before.
It was a really good team. But yeah, obviously it would be a really big thing for Elfsborg. I mean, this is a fairly small club. They are bringing approximately 3,000 fans to London, which is a really good thing for them. And it's also great to see that they've got this massive support. So yeah, it would definitely be a great day if they managed to beat Tottenham. But yeah, everything have to be top notch for them to do that. Obviously, I mean,
it doesn't,
in terms of quality,
right now. It doesn't.
No, I know, but in terms of quality, I mean, despite Spurs having this awful period, they should manage to win this game.
But we've got obviously a huge Swedish connection at the club at the minute. I'd argue that 2 of our best players are Swedes in Kulusevski and Bergvall. We all know about Kulusevski, and he's gone on to be captain of Sweden, and he just seems to be growing in stature. But Bergvall is somebody that you spoke about previously. He is astonishing, isn't he? And he's just getting better and better. How are they both seen in Sweden, and are they attracting a lot of interest to Tottenham as a consequence?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They're attracting a lot of interest. I actually met with Bergvall just a week ago, I think. I had a sit down with him. And it was really interesting to speak to him because I started off the interview by just asking him hi, how are you? And Lucas just looked really depressed and started to rant about like, yeah, obviously it's not really good. I mean, we're not playing well, blah blah blah. And then he added, "Well, I guess I'm fine." So I mean, that shows that he cares a lot about his club. He cares a lot about the fact that they're not doing so well at the moment. He cares a lot about the fans, and I'm so surprised that he's such a big part of this team in such a short period of time.
Is he surprised?
Yeah, I mean, because during pre-season and when we spoke to each other, we did realize that he was probably going to have a good chance of playing. But the fact that he's been disintegral in the team and that he has to take so much responsibility, I think it does weigh on him. But I also think it might be a good lesson for him as well. I definitely think that he's learning a lot at the moment.
Something that's really impressed me about him, he's come in, he's so young, and I guess the first time I noticed it, I mean, he's played minutes here and there, and you can see he had a lot of talent, a lot of energy, a lot of ability. He's going to be a huge player. But something that really impressed me was actually against Newcastle, when I saw him really matching up to Joel Linton, who for me is the biggest bully in the Premier League. You've got Bergvall, who is 18 years old, matching up to this monster of a man. He didn't look smaller than him. He didn't look physically intimidated, and he actually got under Joel Linton's skin. That is so impressive. Speaks a lot about his mentality. You met him just last week. I mean, he's bigger than he seems, right? He's actually a big guy, isn't he?
Well, I wouldn't say big, but he's tall.
Yeah.
he's taller than you think. He's taller than me, at least. But yeah, I do agree with you, because obviously, like, going from Allsvenskan to Premier League, I think the thing that players fear the most is the physical side of it. And I remember that Dejan Kulusevski, he spoke about that as well. Like, he was scared to death. Like, when he was sitting on a plane to London, he was like, how am I going to deal with, this league, the physicality of it? But he managed very well. And I think that Bergvall, the only thing I would say is obviously, like, his tackles are sometimes not that well timed, as we all know. Yeah. But I think that he's growing into it, and that's obviously like part of his development. And the fact that he's so young, like he's learning on the job, like he's learning in every game. So I think he's definitely taking steps. So I'm really impressed with him, and he's a lovely guy. I can add, like he's absolutely amazing both on and off the pitch.
And in his defence on the tackling, I would say that if we weren't so expansive and open in the way that we play, he may not have to be so desperate in the way that he tackles.
Do you think there's
that is true?
Do you think there's a part? You look at him, blonde hair, blue eyes, pretty young Swedish guy. Do you think part of the mentality is I've got to show them I'm not this person. I need to go out there. I need to take on Joel Linton to show the Premier League I'm not the guy you think I am when you look at me.
I'm not sure he thinks about that. Too much. I think he's actually quite surprised by some of the attention he's receiving. I mean, he's had attention for basically his whole life because of social media and YouTube, and so he's been on a lot of people's radar for a long time. So I think he's used to the attention. But yeah, it's quite striking how popular he is in Asia in particular. And I was talking to a Chinese colleague the other week, and she was talking about how Lucas is basically like the third most popular player in China at the moment.
Wow.
And not like mainly because of the way he plays, but because of the way he looks. So he's definitely, he is definitely increasing his fan base every week.
And my last question on Bergvall, because you met him last week, which I hadn't realised, did he speak about the Liverpool game and his first goal for the club, and then the possible second yellow card? What were his feelings about that first goal and that whole game?
Yeah, he did. First of all, I obviously asked about like his feelings around scoring a goal, and especially because I feel like the fans have really taken him in,
100%,
and he felt the same. Like he was overwhelmed by the love from the fans, and he said it was a dream to score that goal. And then I asked him, like, did you think that the fact that everyone was talking about this situation, this decision by the referee, do you think that was a shame that there was so much focus on that instead of your goal? And you could tell that he had almost rehearsed his answer. He had been thinking about this a lot, and he was like, well, first of all, the first booking shouldn't even have been a yellow card.
Good, yeah,
I mean, that wasn't a yellow card.
Correct.
The second one, I'm not even sure that I should have had a second yellow card. So he was really adamant that he thought that he. Yeah, but I do think that even though he didn't say so, I do think that maybe he thought it was a bit sad that everyone was talking so much about that. And you could tell after the game as well, after the final whistle, when he went up to Van Dijk, when Van Dijk was standing there talking to the referee, he really wanted to make a case for himself.
Yeah.
So, but he was obviously overjoyed scoring his first goal.
I think Anfield is going to be a big, big test for him. I think they're really going to go for him in that crowd. And it's going to be a big sort of moment for can he hold his own. But I've got to say, I've rarely been as excited about youngsters as Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall. And in a bleak season, Bergvall and Kulusevski are two of the shining lights.
Yeah.
Frida, Sweden as a national team, in our generation, have always been one of the mainstays of European football. They've been regular qualifiers into good international tournaments, and finished third in '94. But since then, there has been a turn where I believe they haven't qualified for the last 3 or 4 World Cups.
One in the last 4.
One in the last 4, and then they didn't qualify for the last Euros. But what we're seeing now via Kulusevski, Bergvall, Alexander Isak, what's changed? There looks to be a potential golden generation, but potentially built around really technical quality footballers you don't instantly associate with Sweden, as apart from obviously like Henrik Larsson, but these are very different to the Swedish players that we've known in the past. So what's changed?
I don't know exactly what's changed. I think that for a long period of time, Sweden haven't really developed that many great players. So if you look back to the players you mentioned, Henrik Larsson, Fredrik Ljungberg, Zlatan, so back in 2004, let's say, at the Euros, I mean, that was our golden chance to actually get something out of this generation, but we didn't at the time. And I think now, the only thing I would say is that, yes, Sweden are producing a lot of attacking players, but we still do have big question marks in terms of the defense. So, I wish that both those parts were developing in the same way. But obviously, having Gyökeres, let's not forget him, Isak, Kulusevski, Lucas Bergvall, who's not even Bergvall is not even a starting player because we have Yasin Ayari at Brighton, who's been doing brilliantly this season. So he's ahead of him. And then we have this issue with Anthony Elanga at Nottingham Forest, who he wasn't in the last squad for some reason. There's been some drama with the national coach, Jon Dahl Tomasson, so I'm not sure about his situation. But certainly a lot of great attacking options. And obviously, Sweden really wants for this to, turn into something great. Not only have a good team on paper, but actually being able to, get to the Euros, get to the World Cup. That would be brilliantly, because as you say, we got so used to just qualifying. So, now it's been a while since there's been actual progress.
Frida, I just want to bring it back to something we spoke a lot about Bergvall. Kulusevski, have you spoken to him at all recently? Because I see him as a future captain of Tottenham. I think a lot of people are starting to see Kulusevski as a leader and a captain. How's he feeling about everything at the minute and his position in the club?
Yeah, I did. I spoke with him a couple of weeks ago. I think it was after... I can't even remember what loss it was.
Pick one of them.
After one game. I think it was after the... No, I can't remember. So a big game, at least. Okay. And I did ask him about playing so much, because obviously he's starting to look slightly tired now, which is not surprising at all because he's been playing so much. And he did tell me that he feared that he was going to get injured. So he was trying to do everything he could to make sure that his body was, to treat his body as a temple and make sure that he was going to stay fit throughout the whole season. And you can tell that he does feel huge responsibility for this team, and he is acting like a captain. And there's a rather interesting situation at the Swedish national team as well, because Lindelöf has been the captain for quite a few years now, but it's just so clear that Kulusevski is much better suited for that role. So what the national coach has done now is basically bring them both on as captains, so they're basically sharing it. But you can tell that Kulusevski is the one to, take the word in press conferences and speak like in a very blunt and very good way with the journalists. So I think he's done, like you said, I think he's done amazingly this season, consider everything that's been going on. And I just hope he stays fit, both for Tottenham's sake and for Sweden's sake.
Yeah. Frida, wonderful to get your opinions on, to have someone who's spoken to Bergvall and Kulusevski within the last few weeks is wonderful for us, and it's great to hear those comments. But let's take it back to Thursday. Like I said, Elfsborg, great win against Nice. They're still fighting to get through to the playoffs. Poor away from home in Europe, and they've had one game in a few months. How do you see Thursday night going?
God. What I think, I would, in a way, like the most classic thing to say would be, if Spurs go 1-0 up, it's going to be really tricky for Elfsborg. But on the other hand, when you watch Spurs play, it's basically the opposite. They're not comfortable in a leading position. They would rather be, I guess not 2-1 down, because that didn't work against Leicester either. But so the one thing I would say is that Elfsborg, they have a player in central midfield called Bestford Senelli, and he's a really good distributor. I think he's got a really bright future ahead of him, and I think if he gets space and time to do something on the ball, they might get something. They might get a goal, maybe on a counter attack. Spurs obviously really vulnerable on a counter attack, but in the end, if Spurs don't win this game, it would be unbelievable. That's the only thing I can say. Obviously, they're going to beat. They have to beat this Elfsborg. They should beat this Elfsborg team. But again, you never know with this team.
You do never know with this team. I'm fascinated to see it. It's the first time we've played them. I always like seeing new teams. I'll be there, and like you say, 3,000 travelling fans. That'll be great. Will you be at the game or just watching from afar?
Yeah, I'll be at the game. So let's see if it's Postecoglou's last or if it stays on.
Or somebody else's first, hopefully.
Someone else's first. Ryan Mason's.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be his first.
No, it wouldn't be his first of the season, exactly. Frida, thank you so much for joining us. As I say, to have someone so well connected and so well versed as you on this pod, we're really, really grateful. Thank you so much for joining us once again, and we will speak to you soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, and good luck with the rest of the season.
We need it. We need it. Thank you, Frida. Cheers.
Thank you.